They were spinning around here.
This is the Sluggo, slant and go.
Georgia Tech, Florida State.
If you're going to ruin this show by doing research,
Notre Dame.
My dentist is a Notre Dame grad.
Definitely smells.
Casey, the beef curry, and what's happening in West Orange, New Jersey tonight. That was a friend of the show and someone who will be on a little bit later, Zach Lux Parker, talking about something that smells. And I can't help but think he may be talking about our picks.
Yeah, no doubt about it. But I'd like to go on record and say I never said I was any good at it.
Well, hey, the folks out there can use your picks better than any of our picks, because if they go against you, money in the bank, man. Money in the bank.
Beware tonight, though. I outsourced my picks tonight, so I'm not going to divulge my source, but they are outsourced, so we'll see. Maybe I'm trying to buck the trend here. I'm trying to buck the trend. You
outsourced your picks. Could it be that your biggest fan and maybe only fan on the show besides Mrs. Cregan, obviously, young William, made your picks tonight?
He didn't, but I would love to say hello to William Leco out there in Somewhereville, Pennsylvania. He is a loyal listener of mine, so I'm glad that he's hopefully tuning in. At least he'll see the playback, and hello from Uncle Casey.
Hey, William, we appreciate you joining, and you can always listen to this show. You're always welcome. We keep it clean on this version, and it's just the way we roll here. We want to talk about football. We've already got folks chiming in on the comments, Casey. Joe Thomas said, "Go Tigers." Joe, appreciate that very much, and thanks for participating in the show. And, of course, there's our buddy Nelson Wilhite chimes in and says, "Well, you represent, Casey." I think he likes the Clemson shirt better than the Angel shirt from last week. What do you think?
Well, I got called out on multiple fronts last week, whether or not it was in the comment section, whether it was my comments on Facebook from my live watch party, whatever it's called. So I thought I'd go the exact opposite of where I was last week and just deck out in full. Number 9, Travis Etienne, the second. It's on the back.
Well, and as you talked about, or as we talked about before we went live, if you're going to put a Clemson shirt on, what a shirt, 9 or 16 is kind of what's in vogue these days, right? You can't go wrong with 9 or 16. Hey, what a crazy week of college football last Saturday. Well, it was only a day, but maybe it seemed like a week. I mean, it was just our first truly bizarre and crazy weekend. One of the things, one of the types of weekends, the reasons we love college football so much. Let's count down a few things here. Oklahoma lost after they led by 21 points in the third quarter to Kansas State, who lost previously to Arkansas State. And you and I were going back and forth on the text. It was really kind of hilarious with the Spencer Rattler trash talk. And I was doing it half-heartedly, I have to say. I was just trying to keep the conversation rolling. I do predict this, though. So I'm the first one out of the gate with a hot take. Before he leaves Oklahoma, assuming it's not due to something bad, he will win a Heisman Trophy at Oklahoma. Lincoln Riley's quarterback has never finished below 4 in the Heisman, his starting quarterback, whether he's the OC or the head coach. So that's something to think about. So I'm thinking Spencer Rattler is the next in a great line of Oklahoma quarterbacks. But anyway, back to last Saturday. Brock Purdy, who some people thought was going to be a contender for the Heisman, managed to throw a pick 6. And it wasn't any pick 6. The guy he threw it to had just completed a somersault 16 yards behind the line of scrimmage, caught it, stood up, caught the pass from Purdy, read it in for a touchdown. Texas Tech blew a 15-point lead with 3 minutes and 17 seconds to go to Texas. And that's just the Big 12. What a crazy weekend.
It really was. And to dial it back a little bit to Spencer Rattler, I think he's going to be good too. And in that system in the Big 12. But as I said last week, that's right, I made a correct prediction. Write it down, Marty. I said that Kansas State has always given Oklahoma fits recently. It just seems. I don't know what they do. I really don't know what they're doing differently. But it just seems like it was a house of horrors for them, for lack of a better phrase. But yeah, I think Spencer Rattler's still going to be good. He still throws a great ball. He's a freshman. He's a true redshirt freshman.
Yeah.
Excuse me. He's a freshman, and we have to remember that he's still as talented as they come. And I give you crap, but let's call a spade, and he's going to be special there, no question about it.
I think that's pretty much the subtitle of the show. Give you crap for both ways. It goes both ways, and just bizarre. The Big 12, man. It's known for no defense, but it's not. It was just a wild weekend in the Big 12 and across college football. And those days, I mentioned this last week. Those days when Clemson doesn't play, it's a blessing and a curse, right? Because I long to see the orange and white or purple, depending on the game, whatever colors of Clemson out there on the field. I live for those 3.5 hours or so every Saturday. But on the other hand, when they're not playing, you can watch all the other games and enjoy just the craziness that is college football. So it's half, what did it say? Half full, I guess.
Glass half full. Yeah, I agree with you 1,000%. You always get those questions from your friends. Who's Clemson playing, especially up here that aren't necessarily paying attention to the college game too much. Or saying who's Clemson playing this week. I always joke and say BYE, but they immediately think BYU. But yeah, then you sit down on the couch and I did a little family time. We went to the zoo a little bit last week. It was great.
Saw that on Facebook.
It was a great little start to the weekend. Came home. The boy takes a nap at the perfect time, like between 1 and 4. So I got the second half of some SEC action. But there were so many games. My wife actually looked at me at one point and was like, "What game are you watching?" Because there were so many games going on, and I was flipping back and forth. I'm that annoying person with the remote. I was trying to keep up with Nelson. Nelson's giving me text messages on some games. I'm trying to flip back and forth. So it gets a little hairy. At least when Clemson's on, I watch Clemson. I don't even turn it off at the commercials. So it's a little bit of a different, chaotic weekend, if you will.
Yeah, and speaking of Nelson, we appreciate everybody who's tuning in, and we've had several comments already, 3 or 4 comments. Last week was our second highest ever viewed show. We appreciate that immensely, but we also live for the comments. Good, bad, indifferent. Chime in, make fun of us. We don't take ourselves too seriously. We're just here to talk football. We're just 2 days talking football and happen to have a platform to do it, and we're thankful for that. We're thankful for everybody watching. Chime in with some comments, make fun of us. Casey's, Minnesota Twins who
18 in a row.
Yeah, they're on a streak. They're on a streak. I was watching a little bit of that this afternoon. Hey, before you get too comfortable in your skin, Casey, we want to, each of us has something to rant about this week. And I'm not a big ranter, though in about 10 minutes you may think I am. But I'm going to let you go first. And, should be a shock to nobody who is on the Facebook group or listens to this show. Casey has a problem with polls. And this week's rant is?
Surprisingly, it's about the polls. There's a problem with the polls. And I know, hi, Valerie, how are you? I know that the Big Ten hasn't been playing, right? So they were inserted into the polls last week. But here's the problem. Here's the problem with the polls. Virginia Tech beats handily a North Carolina State team, a ranked Virginia Tech team, mind you, okay? Yes, they were in the 20s, but they were ranked. They win handily. Now, what does any SEC team do if they win handily? They're jumping at least 6 spots, right? What did Virginia Tech do? They dropped out of the polls to make room for Ohio State, Penn State, Iowa, Rutgers. Who else knows? I don't even know what teams are in there, but it just felt like, how are these teams being ranked? I know I'm beating a dead horse to some extent here. How are these teams ranked ahead of a team that's played and showed it on the field? Like it's just a whole new level here. They're actually playing games and winning games. You can't tell me Ohio State's better than Virginia Tech right now. You can't do it. Yes, on paper, maybe. But I can't believe that. I knew something like this was going to happen with the way that the season spread out. But good night, Irene. I didn't expect it to happen to like the first week. I understand they put Ohio State 6th. I was like, okay, if we're going to have these dumb things to talk about, you're not putting them right at 2. but you put them at 6. So I feel good about it. But who'd you bump out? And you bumped out teams that won. And I can't get behind it. So that's my rant for the week.
You just can't get behind it. Hey, your buddy Michael Caine chimed in and said the rants are why he's here. So
he lives in Corvallis, Oregon. Mike Caine tuning in from Corvallis, home of Oregon State. Big Clemson guy, but big Oregon State guy as well because he lives right there. So thanks, Mike, for tuning in.
Here's what I don't get. We've had this talk about. Of course, we have this rant every week, and I kind of enjoy it myself. But
I saw you sitting back there.
I was like, this is great. This is great. I was going to say radio, but it's not quite radio. Great internet. But we had this talk on the Facebook page. I understand somebody ranking LSU in the top preseason when nobody's played. Rank them wherever you want. If you think they're defending national champions and they belong to be number one until somebody beats them, that's fine. I get it. But when somebody plays, and this is really, I said LSU, but I'm really talking about Ohio State here. When other teams have played, what you're really doing is you're ranking this year's Clemson team against last year's Ohio State team, right? Because you're saying, well, Ohio State has this guy coming back and this guy coming, all these people coming back. But the point for me is teams change every year. Theoretically, you could have all 120 guys come back and it'd be a different team, right? The chemistry could be different. Somebody could be hurt, whatever. So it doesn't, while in the preseason, you can rank based on the end of last year, because that's really, okay, the last time we saw them, they were really good. But you can't rank last year's Ohio State team versus this year's Clemson team. Ohio State's going to be different. I think, personally, they're going to be good. I picked them to win the championship before they opted out. The Big Ten opted out, and I opted back in. I think they're going to be really good. But I've seen Clemson this year, and I've seen Alabama to some extent. So I just don't get ranking teams that haven't played versus teams that have played multiple games, especially.
And I think that you said the right word here. I think Ohio State's going to be good too. I think Ohio State's going to be 1, 2, or 3. I definitely think it, but we know what we saw on the field. So, exactly, we're hanging out too much. I think this week is going too much because you're starting to think my way. I'm kind of coming around to the preseason thing because it's a way to not my picks, but just this rant. But about the preseason thing, because it's something to talk about. I get it, but that what you just said, you're ranking last year's team and what you think is going to happen rather than what you actually see on the field, which is why my rant this week is about what we've seen on the field. Now, is Ohio State going to be better than Virginia Tech? I think so. But we saw Virginia Tech win a game by 35 points. Is NC State any good? No. They're not. But I mean, come on. We've seen that now twice. However, Virginia Tech won a game and dropped out of the top 25. That's like Clemson being on upset alert every week, just in hopes that somebody gets it right.
Well, you think your rant has some crazy stats to it about Virginia Tech winning and dropping out of the top 25. I've got something even better. Our friend Nelson, friend of the show, he turned me on to the Sagarin rankings this week, right? And, this guy's been around since I was a wee lad, and I'm an old dude now. So he's been around forever. He's kind of like the first one that I remember besides the Dunkel ratings in NAIA basketball that had, a fancy computer model when a computer was as big as your house. And I was going to say as big as your head, but I was trying to be nice today. When a computer was as big as your house, and, like 5 people had him in the United States. And he was just, nobody ever questioned this guy. And I think to some extent, nobody ever questions him now. But I did a little Google search after talking with Nelson and found out plenty of people questioned him. And let me tell you why plenty of people questioned him. Last week, he had Clemson ranked number 3. Clemson had an off week. This week, they're ranked number 13. They lost 10 spots by not playing, and that includes one of the teams in the top 5 losing. and you say, wow, what could be worse than a team not playing and losing 10 spots? Well, let me tell you, the team that lost, Oklahoma, he had them ranked number 5 last week. This week, number 3. Clemson has a week off and loses 10 spots. Oklahoma loses to an inferior team by everybody's estimation, and he moves them up 2 spots. Now, I talked to you last week about I'm someone who has done an algorithm before, apparently not a very good one, and one that you said that you would not even bother to look at. I think that was your exact point. And you know, when something like this happens, you really need to look at it. And you go, well, that doesn't make any sense. I don't think this guy looked at it. I think he thinks I'm smarter than everybody else, and I'm just going to roll with this crappy algorithm because I'm smarter than everybody else. You have to look at your algorithm, because when people say algorithm, people think, oh, there's giant computers that just magically come up with this formula. No, there's people that are putting in the inputs, you know, how much do I weigh home field, and how much do I weigh this, and what does last week mean? Am I more worried about this week's games or last year's games, and how much weight to put on each of these factors, turnovers and yards and plays and all those things? There's a human that's telling the computer what to spit out, right? He has to look at that and say, this is screwed up. Sorry, William, if William's mom is screwed up, is a bad word, I'm sorry, but this is screwed up. It makes no sense to drop a team 10 spots. A team that has proven their national caliber team over the last 7, 8, 9 years, right? We're not talking about a Johnny come lately. We're not talking about a Virginia Tech. We're talking about somebody who's won 2 of the last 4 national championships, beating mighty Alabama, you know? And we're talking about an Oklahoma team that loses to somebody they shouldn't every year, and they lose to Kansas State, who lost to Arkansas State, and yet they go up 2 places. What in the heck is this guy doing, Casey?
I love it. I love the rant. That's fantastic. I don't understand. I tried to, when you mentioned it and put it on the agenda for tonight, I went in and did a little bit of research, and I emphasized little bit of research and tried to read because I saw the rankings. Nelson sent them to me too. I saw the Sagarin rankings, and I was trying to read the description as to how these numbers get spit out. And that might as well have been in Greek, because I like to think that I play a not so smart guy, but I like to think I'm pretty smart. And I had no understanding of how this algorithm worked and what he put into it. And we've been hearing about Sagarin ratings, like you said, since I was a very little boy, and it sounds important, right? But I've never actually looked into it. But once you told me that Clemson dropped 10 spots and Oklahoma went up, I didn't know that part. Oklahoma went up 2 spots after losing. How much credence does this guy get? And people do put a lot of credence into this poll. So yikes, man.
Yeah, I did a little bit of research. I tried to figure out if the College Football Playoff Committee uses his rankings, and I didn't care enough, to follow through on that. But
didn't the BCS though? Didn't the BCS do a little bit?
Don't know. Okay. Don't remember.
Good.
Yeah. Matter of fact, you're right, because that's the one I found that was complaining about him. It was actually an old article from the BCS days. And somebody had ranted about, why are they using this moron? And that was like 2013. And, I'm sure the guy's very smart. I don't doubt that. But part of me wonders, is he trying to look so smart? He's involved, he's trying to include too many things in his algorithm for it just to make sense. It is just bizarre. I mean, you have to look at if you have any credibility whatsoever, you have to address those things in a blog or a page on your website. Say, I know this looks weird, but here's why it happened. You know what I mean? Yeah. To just put numbers out there with no explanation behind it just seems to fly in the face of reality, right? I mean, just reality, just common sense and reality. Hey, I see Terzi's up and he checked in. Terzi, if you're still listening to this, thank you. I got notification that my sauce is on the way to Texas. I ordered mesquite this time, Casey. So you said it was good stuff. So that was good enough for me. So I pushed the buttons. Turgey, I'm looking forward to getting that mesquite because I owe my wife some barbecue sauce because I sit here and talk to Casey every Wednesday night, and she's getting kind of little mad about it. But
yeah, and I can't thank him enough because my package came the other day, and I had 4 bottles of Turgey's sauce in there. I got the mesquite, and I got the original. I also got the Raging Bull. Now, if anyone likes hot sauce with really good flavor, Raging Bull's the way to go, man. Woo, that's hot. And I also got a Carolina Sweet Heat, which is tasty too. But man, that mesquite and the original are restaurant quality. I'm not even kidding. They are what you would get. They are fantastic. All 4 of them are, but those 2 were my favorites. I've already. What's today? Wednesday. I got them on Monday, and I've already dove in just about every meal. I put it in my mac and cheese the other day. It's fantastic. So thank you, Turgey. Thank you, Pit Boss Sauce, and all those people out there. Definitely go to thepitbosssauce.com. Is it .com? .org?
Yes, it's .com.
And twiddle your fingers a little bit and get some sauce. And anybody in and around the Greenville or Clemson area, definitely see if you can't get some sauce. Maybe you'll even be able to pick it up. So it's great.
Yeah, very, very, very reasonable price. I was surprised at how inexpensive it was. So
it's cheap.
Turgey, here's to you, buddy. I'm going to try out some of the mesquite. Casey, Justin Leneweaver, he wants to talk about how much we are worried about Ohio State and think they're the only competition that Clemson has.
I think he's right. Based on what I've seen on the field, oh wait, no, they haven't played on the field yet, but I think
cheap shot.
I think on paper, Ohio State is the competition. Alabama looked good too, and man, who's the wide receiver? Jalen Waddle the other day. Woo, he looked good. Mac Jones didn't look like he looked like another system quarterback. Not nearly as dynamic as Tua or Jalen Hurts, but still he looked really good too. Alabama's going to be good. They're going to be a force there. I'm not dismissing them, but I truly think the fan bases now, the Ohio State fan base and the Clemson fan base, really are starting to not like each other. And if maybe not starting, maybe they don't like each other. And I think that's the game that everyone, especially in the Clemson fan base and Ohio State fan base, really want to see this year. We can't dismiss Alabama. I wouldn't say that me personally am scared of Ohio State. I think it's going to be a great game, and truthfully, could go either way.
Yeah, I'm not scared of them. I think it'll be a great game, as you said. I just know that they were very physical last year with the Clemson wide receivers, and that posed a problem with Higgins and Ross, and now Clemson's without Higgins and Ross, so should be interesting. Hey, Stephen Falkenberry says he doesn't think any Big Ten team should be allowed in the playoffs or even be ranked. Have to play 5 to 6 games before they even play their first game. They should be out of the equation altogether. That's not going to happen. It's
not going to happen, but I think that's a fair argument too. I really do. I mean, the NCAA and the college football playoff aren't going to let that happen, but they are good, and we'll see. We'll see if they. I think they're gonna. Yes, we're gonna be 5 games ahead of them. I think them playing 8 games in 8 weeks, theoretically, or at least on paper, may not be a good thing for them. No bye weeks whatsoever. God forbid you get a game postponed, then you start playing like the Maction on Tuesday or Wednesday night, maybe of a following week, or even to get it in. They could be. Like we joked about early on in this mess, they could be 3-0 and ranked number 2 and get in the college football playoff because of some outbreak here in New Jersey or some outbreak in Iowa or Nebraska or wherever.
Yeah, no doubt. Should be interesting. Hey, guess he's ready to check in. It's the man himself, Zach Locks Parker. And Locks, I got something for you here. I put a special sounder on just for you.
Okay.
This is your intro music.
Definitely smells.
That's it.
That's me. No
That's
doubt.
you. So you made the intro, and you got your own little sounder. And now, Casey, I know we got young William watching, and we don't want anything too terrible to come out of our mouths. But what I'm about to put on the screen is really terrible. Ready? For those of you on the podcast edition of this, this is our season rankings on our Sluggo Blue Can picks, and they're worth about half of a blue can. I'm leading the way, and I say that with a smile because average at 9-9-2. Zach has pulled into second place, 6-12-2, and Casey, as he always has been, pulling up the rear. That's not true. Zach was in last place early on, but Casey's 5-13-2, and we are playing for. Casey's playing for the National MS Society. I'm playing for Partnerships for Children. And Zach is playing for the Georgia Animal Rescue and Defense, which I'm sure is a fine organization, but they can't spell defense. They spell it with a C, and they're in Georgia, so there's a hint on that one.
We're remote learning right now, so bear with us.
Yeah, and boy, I don't know about everybody else's household, but that's been a challenge in this household.
Yeah,
for definitely for sure. All right, guys, we got 5 games to pick this week. As we always do, we go from the bottom to the top. So, Casey, you'll go first on the first pick. That seems like that happens every week.
It's a common theme. Common theme, Marty.
As you said, you're consistent. First game up, South Carolina is getting 18 points at the Florida Gators. Mr. Beef.
Well, like I told you earlier, I don't know if Locks heard me, but I've outsourced my picks this week. I've done zero research other than the games that I've watched. I really liked Kyle Trask and the wide receiver Kyle as well for Florida. Their defense is we'll see. They need to get tested. Ole Miss kind of put it on them a little bit last week. South Carolina, they got killed in the local media in South Carolina this week, not putting up much of a fight. They went for a field goal down 7 at the end. It was weird for them, but I wasn't all that unimpressed with. How about that for a double negative? I thought South Carolina was okay. They were what I expected them to be, in all honesty. Defense was fine. The DBs were running their mouth after every play. I thought, well, Tennessee's not on our list, but I thought that quarterback was terrible, and he's a Jersey kid. And we don't like to talk negative about Jersey kids. All that word salad to say, I'm going Florida.
Okay, so that you're going Florida, and that's going to be the name of the podcast, Word Salad. I missed it last time. I'm not missing it this time. We're going to have Word Salad as the name of the podcast edition. Okay, you go Florida. Zach Locks Parker, who has been unlocks so far.
Yeah, pretty unlocked. Definitely. Everybody has a combination of this lock. Well, if we remember right, Will Muschamp used to be the head coach of Florida. We all know that. So he doesn't want to get embarrassed. Not a real good chance of him winning this game. So he's going to put up a good fight. You know that. He's also fighting for his job. I think he should be gone already. Personally, at the end of that game last week was a mess. I think he mismanaged the clock and just had a couple of a bad play calls even, to save some more time too. He's a defensive-minded coach. So, everything that I'm thinking here is, really pointing toward Carolina. So therefore I'm going to pick Florida. Definitely. There's just no way. I'm taking Florida. In my brain, if I'm thinking one thing this week, I'm taking the opposite. So mark me down for Florida. I'll take the points.
Real quick, I will tell you, Will Muschamp also grew up in Gainesville. So he actually went to high school at Gainesville High School. So that's truly home.
Okay, Zach, you're trying to confuse me already. I haven't had any beer, but you said you're taking Florida, and then you're taking the points. So you're giving the points and taking Florida.
Yep, I'm taking it.
And by the way, going for a field goal late in the game when you're down by 7, we call that the Narduzzi principle. Wasn't it Narduzzi that was on the 1 at Penn State? Down by 7, and he went for that's known as the Narduzzi principle. Hey, I went back forward. I was a little surprised South Carolina scored so many points last week. 18 is a little uncomfortable zone, right? Because it's kind of a weird score. But then I thought it doesn't make any difference because Florida's going to score like 51 or so, 48, 51 here. So I'm also going Florida. Next game, too bad Casey's not first on this one because his pick to win the SEC West is playing the rest of the world's pick to win the SEC West. Zach Locks Parker, you are up first. Texas A&M travels to Alabama as a 17-point underdog. Who you got, Locks?
Well, you know, I am an SEC homer, self-admittedly. I love the SEC. I was so happy they were back last week. Not going to lie about it. Not a lot of people will appreciate it since I'm wearing a Clemson hat. But I like the football. I like the brand of football. I live in Georgia. You know, I'm surrounded by Georgia fans, so I'm used to SEC. I don't chant SEC. I don't root for anyone in particular, but I just like the football itself. Bama, I respect the hell out of the program. I think Nick Saban's just a fantastic coach. He does it the right way most of the time. But I think that this game,
Here it comes.
he'll be pushed to keep the starters in a little longer than last week. Therefore, I think he will cover the 18 points here. He's going to probably try and run it up a little bit here too. I think maybe the Texas A&M ranking of 12, as usual, might be a little bit high, which is surprising. Yeah, exactly. So yeah, they're going to lose the game, but I think that Bama's going to run it up on them. So I'll take Bama in the points on this one.
Yeah, and I heard a lot of talk last week or this week actually about Texas A&M only didn't show anything against Vanderbilt because they're saving it for Alabama.
Yeah.
Baloney. Baloney. Hey, Texas A&M, you ever think maybe they don't have anything to show, right? This is the team, and the quarterback who, if you're down, I always say this, 35-10 with 3 minutes to go, they'll take their time and go on a 85-yard, 17-play drive and be happy to lose 35-17. I mean, and Kellen Mond's nothing special to me unless he's down by 18. Now, they could score a couple of touchdowns and make it a game and cover the spread. That's the chance I'm willing to take. I'm also going with Nick Saban in Alabama to cover. Casey the Beef Cregan, you're up again.
Well, remember, I'm outsourcing these picks this week, right? I am 28% on the year. I like to say this week I'm 0 because I'm not picking these games. They're being picked for me. A&M.
Hey, hey, we are like the SEC, not the Southeastern Conference, but the one that oversees the stock market. You're signing your name to this, so they are your picks.
Yeah, buddy.
You're not outsourcing. Texas A&M for Casey.
Yes.
Okay, it's my turn to go first. Oklahoma travels to Oklahoma, coming off a loss to Kansas State, has to go to a different cornfield this week to play Iowa State, Jack Trice Stadium. I looked at the weather report for this one.
Wow.
Research.
It's going to be 39 degrees. Well, that's the low, somewhere between 50 and 39. I don't think it matters. I'm sure it gets that cold in Oklahoma too. It's not like, Clemson playing in Alaska or something. But here's what I think. I think Oklahoma's going to crush Iowa State. I think they're going to be mad. Now, every year they lose to somebody they shouldn't. They should be mad before the season starts, right? But it doesn't seem that way. It seems like they always have a letdown. They always lose to somebody they shouldn't. They'll run off 10 straight or 9 or 8 or 7 or how many they're allowed to play this year. And they'll be saying, we should be in the playoffs so we can lose again in the first round of the playoffs like we do every time. Oklahoma covers with 7 points. Who's up? Beef, you up?
Sure. I will also choose Oklahoma this week because Spencer Rattler is the top 4 quarterback in the country.
Love me some Spencer Rattler. Is that your final answer?
Yeah. I don't have anything for you. I don't know Iowa State from Kentucky State or Bemidji State, so I'm definitely going Oklahoma. I think this is a rebound game. It's a statement game. They're gonna win by a lot.
They've got to do it. That's my theory. They've got to do it to try and impress the pollsters and the playoff crowd committee. Zach, what you got? Oklahoma is a 7-point favorite in Iowa, playing Iowa State.
Is anyone else surprised at this line being this low after losing last week? I mean, we've already said everything that I was going to say. It's a revenge game. Probably been a long week of practice, just like when Notre Dame didn't show up versus Duke. Remember how they came back? And they stomped who they played.
USF.
Yeah, USF, yeah, stomped them. Same thing happening here. And Oklahoma, not only are they going to do that, they have to do that. They have to show up. They have to stomp every opponent that they play from here out to have a chance to still get into the playoff, which, by God, I hope they don't get in. I mean, it's just repeat and repeat over and over. Same thing with everybody else that's in it, but try someone else, for God's sakes. Get them out of there. But Oklahoma will win by dominating fashion here.
UCF.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah. Well, and this is an Iowa State team that lost to Louisiana, right? Billy Napier in Louisiana. So you're right, Zach. That 7 points doesn't seem like a lot for for an Oklahoma team that thought to be top 5, and according to Jeff Sagarin, played so well last week, they moved up to number 3. So I'm not bitter, though. I'm not bitter.
No,
Clemson dropped 10 spots without playing. Oklahoma loses and moves up 2 spots. But, hey, makes perfect sense. Okay, I went out of order that time, by the way, so we'll get back into order. I know this is a shocker. I do it every week. Next game is Auburn getting 6.5 points in Zach's backyard, playing the Georgia Bulldogs. Now, what an intriguing line, right? If somebody were to bet money on this, Casey's is in a legal state for betting. 6.5 points, Sanford Stadium, a crowd of, 10,000 maybe, something? Anybody there? Yeah, okay. Casey, you're up first on this one.
Man, did you watch Georgia last week in that first half baseball game, 7-5 in the 4th inning? That's how it felt anyway. It was a pillow fight, as Zach says in other areas. It was awful. It was almost painful to watch. That was one of those earlier games that I was excited to see, and it looked for a second like Arkansas was gonna end up taking that one. If they could only put the ball in the end zone, they would have. Anyway, I'm going with Georgia this week. Same idea with Oklahoma. I think with the surprisingly enough, I'm not going to steal Zach's thunder here, but the quarterback comes in, the transfer quarterback. He's available to play. I think they keep feeding the ball to Zamir White, Zeus, as they call him, and that will right everybody down there in Savannah and Athens and everywhere else in the state of Georgia that loves the dogs and barks at grown men. It's going to right the ship. So I'm going Georgia this week.
Barks at grown men.
You ever been there? They bark in your face. It's weird.
It's been a long time, man. I'm glad now that you said that. When you said transfer quarterback, I was like, now which one is he talking? Oh, it's the one that stayed and not the one that transferred so he could opt out. And it's not the high school kid that transferred from California to Georgia to play his senior year and had now been ruled ineligible. What is it with Georgia just attracting all these transfers? It's kind of crazy here. Zach, you're up second. Casey's going with Georgia, and you're up next, Zach.
It's been a long week so far for the dogs around me. I know that. It's been kind of a quiet week after usually you come in Monday. Oh, yeah, we talked about this, that, and the other. A little iffy here in Dog Nation in the Savannah area. Big news. Yeah, JT Daniels was cleared to play. They haven't actually named him as a starter. I can't imagine them not naming him as a starter after the debacle that they went through last week with the 2 kids they had in. Second kid came in. He's a stand-up quarterback. He's good. There's nothing fantastic about him, but he's just kind of a place filler until obviously JT Daniels gets back, which we expect to be this week. I don't know how much prep JT Daniels has had. I would imagine he'd have the playbook, memorized by now. I don't know how much he's had rep-wise. I can't imagine it being a lot. Maybe t-shirt and shorts, no pads, hasn't been hit yet, hasn't played in, I think, 13 months. And that being said, Auburn played good enough last week. Bo Nix is still growing, doing just enough to get by. I like Auburn in this game to possibly upset, but at least keep it close. So I'm going to take Auburn on this one and the points.
Okay, Zach takes the 6.5 points. Yes, 6.5. I'm going with Auburn. Also, if it was 7 or more, I'd probably look the other way. I just think it's going to be a close game, right? We're not talking about a 51-40 type score. They're not going to score a lot of points in my mind. And I mean, in the 20s, maybe 24, 20, 27, 21, something like that.
I think the over-under is 44. So it's not going to be high scoring for sure.
Yeah, 24-20 or so. And I just think whichever way it turns out, it's likely to be close. And I'm just playing that number. So I'm also going to take the underdog there and go with Auburn. And our last game of the night, I get to go first on this one. Virginia, I was going to say Hokies. God, Lord. Virginia Cavaliers are getting 28 points coming into Clemson to play our Clemson Tigers. I'll say yes. I'll say our Clemson Tigers. And I'm going first on this one. Here's the deal for me on this one. Clemson could name the score if they wanted to, 28-point favorites. They could win this 52-10 if they wanted. But I'm going kind of opposite the grain here. They're playing at home. They're going to have 142 people dressed out on the sidelines, and probably all of them are going to play at some point, right? Just like I know Wake Forest was on the road, but okay, more like the Citadel, right? Second quarter, you're going to see a new quarterback or maybe a little later than that. But my point is they're going to play everybody. It's at home. Don't know how many games they're going to play. They want everybody to get their 4 games in while they can and still redshirt. Of course, that doesn't matter this year. But I'm going to take the 28 points and say Virginia covers. I'm going to think, 38-14, somewhere around there. I just don't think – I think Clemson's going to play a whole bunch of players and maybe give up a garbage touchdown. Beef, you're up next.
Well, I don't know if you heard Dabo this week, but Brennan Armstrong, the quarterback of Virginia, the little lefty, is a little Steve Young. So like I've said from the beginning, I always read and hear about the opponent. They got a 6'7" wide receiver from South Carolina who was catching balls on the sideline. He was basically in the stands catching balls with his feet still in bounds. Virginia is gonna their defense is multiple. They're gonna do.
How
all
can you
sorts
keep a straight face?
I'm just regurgitating what Dabo said, man. I'm nervous. Larry Williams on the Tiger Illustrated, they get me nervous. With that being said, Clemson's going to cover. They're going to win that game 52-10 because they haven't covered the last 2, and Dabo's a gambling man.
Yeah. Hey,
I don't know.
Speaking of keeping a straight face, I saw a headline for an article that said national writer thinks Clemson could be in trouble this week versus Virginia. And when I foolishly clicked on the link, it didn't say that at all. It said, like, I think they could score, they give them, they might keep it under 40 or something. I was like, they got me again, man. The dang headline got me again. Okay, Beef takes Clemson. I like that because I got Virginia. Zach, who do you got in this one?
Smell it? Do you smell it? The backdoor cover coming in here. It's got backdoor cover written all over, man.
You were scaring me for a second there.
No. I smell the backdoor cover here. 28 points is a lot. Looking forward to also next week, Miami coming up. Everybody needs to be healthy. Everybody needs to be ready. That's the biggest game coming so far this season. Everybody get the reps in, get DJ in there as a backup, get him some more reps, get him ready for next year. Trevor's going to be in there for probably 2 quarters on the high side. But I think they'll pull the gas off real quick. And Virginia's, they're going to have to score at some point, I'm sure. I got them probably about 10, 13 points, something like that. But I don't think Clemson's going to cover.
What was last year? I think because that the point of after Dabo was talking so glowingly about Virginia, I think David Hale or one of the national guys said we have to remember the score was 62-10. So he made it sound like Clemson was gonna lose by 100 this week, but you have to remember it was 62-10 with a more known quarterback last year as well for Virginia.
And it's fully my belief it could be 62-10 if he wanted it to be. But I think, especially this year, he's going to try and get those guys in. Last year, they knew they were going to have 12 or 13 games. They don't know that this year, right? It could be 7, right? It could be 8. But, Zach, I wish I would have known you were going to take that route? Did we smell it? Because I would have
Definitely smells.
played your personal sounder.
My new sounder.
Yeah, your personal sound for you. Hey, guys, I forgot to say this at the beginning, but seeing how bad we were at these picks, I decided to try, a dartboard. Didn't have one. Ouija board or whatever. I didn't have one. But I did know a place on the internet where I could go and get a random selection. So I plugged these teams in, right, and pulled out, just said, randomly answer which team is going to cover the spread. And that came out, and I'm going to track these to see if it's any better than my picks for one. My picks for one, but all of our picks, right? I wish I would have done this at the beginning of the season. But here's the covers by the rando. We'll call this a rando selection. Florida, Texas A&M, their beef, Oklahoma, Auburn, and Clemson. So there's three of them are mine, but let me go through all of our picks here so everybody out there can know who not to bet on.
Yeah.
Casey the Beef Cregan, Florida, Texas A&M, Oklahoma, Georgia, and Clemson. I took Florida, Alabama, Oklahoma, Auburn, and Virginia. And Zach Locks Parker took Florida, Alabama, Oklahoma, Auburn, and Virginia. I think did I get all that right, guys? Because I've been having a horrible time on this board. Hey guys, I appreciate it. Thank you for your time, Zach. I know you're a busy man. You've got to come up with great sounders in your spare time. Casey the Beef Cregan's got to put the kid to bed and find a new shirt to wear next week. I appreciate your time, guys, and we'll talk again next week, I hope.
Thank you. Thanks, everyone out there, for joining us, too. We appreciate all the comments, and keep them coming, please. We want to keep growing this thing. This was the most comments we've had since we started this thing, and we hope next week we have even more. So thanks so much, Marty. Thanks, Locks. See you all next week.
All right. And Casey, we've already used up all four of your friends, so try and make some new ones for some more comments next week. You guys have a good one.
I think that sounds pretty good.